Okay, so the next one, if you have the power sheets, you're going to actually head over to page 12 and 13. And we are going to continue starting from right where we are, but we're going to evaluate. We're going to give ourselves a score from right where we are in 8 different key areas. And I might have kind of shifted some of the names a little bit from what's in the power sheets just based off of kind of what I know about you guys that are going to be on here. But essentially, you're going to go down each one of these areas. So, and I kind of put them in the order that I think is a good priority, which is your family. Your family should always come first. And for you, again, you might be, Kelly, yes, we will be going back to the other pages. I just wanted to, I know it's a little confusing to kind of skip around a little bit, but we will, I promise we're going to be going back through to the other pages. Okay. Awesome. But yeah, to me, this seemed intentional and also kind of ties into the whole, kind of gap in the gain, be do have, all of those things. So if you know me or if you know me, my brain works in these like crazy, like visual, weird ways that I just have to, anyway, get out onto something like this. That's what we're doing. So yes, we will go backwards. So don't worry. Okay. Yay, Tara. I'm so glad it was helpful. Really think about these things and setting goals that align. So likely if you have set goals in the past, this is probably all you've done. Like you've been like, all right, I'm going to write some things down and it just doesn't stick because it's not necessarily tied to something deeper in your life. So that's where we're going to dig in and get a little bit more purposeful. And so, for example, on this page, it says, use this cultivated life evaluation to give each area of your life a rating between 1 to 10. And you can jot down a few thoughts on why you chose that number. The 1 means you're not satisfied and you want to see a huge change. But keep in mind that means there's a great opportunity. Okay. Like that's not a bad thing if you have a low rating. You want to live in the gain and look at, how much you can grow over that in the next year. Okay. And a 10 means things are great, like couldn't be better, probably not much to work on. You want to celebrate those wins, but it might not be something that you're wanting or needing to cultivate a goal for this year. And then what we're going to do, actually, we'll say that. Well, if you've got the power sheet, you'll see. So, spoiler alert at the end, we're going to pick 3. We're going to pick 3 of these areas that you most want to grow in 2023. So think of this as like you're planting a garden, right? Like there's certain things that you like and come naturally to you, like maybe budgeting for your finances is like, oh, that's fun. I get to do that. Okay, great. It's like I love tomatoes. Like, so planting tomatoes would be great. Right? So maybe other ones like say health and wellness. That was one that was a big one for me this year, but it was not something that came natural to me, but it was something that I needed to make a priority for my family. And also just as I age, right? Like I would turn 40 last year. And, I know that I need to start focusing on things like that for my health. But it's not really something I like. So it's like planting the like cucumbers or planting the what else? Lettuce. Really don't lettuce. Anyway, things like that. But you've got to plant it, right? And like something about planting it, or like when you cook with your kids, a lot of times they're like, oh, actually, maybe I will try it. That kind of looks yummy, right? So like think of this as like some things are going to come naturally. Some things you're going to want to focus more time and energy on. If you are a workaholic, which I have had those tendencies, you're going to want to set all the goals in those areas, right? But your business might be soaring in that area, and you might need to focus some time and energy on other areas that become more of a priority. Sarah, thank you so much for putting that out there. So that's what we're going to do, guys. You're going to write down, if you've got your notebook, you're literally going to write family, give yourself a rating 1 to 10, and then just write a couple of bucket notes. Like for example, for family, which is one of my priorities, it's to make time together my number one priority. So this season, I know I have several friends who are empty nesters, and I know it's going to go by really, really quickly. And like watching the fact that my daughter's going to be in high school next year, like this year, like the one coming up, like that's insane. So I want to enjoy the time together that we have right now. Figure out meals. This was a big goal from last year that I failed miserably. And you will fail on some of your goals, bringing it back for this year. And then less time on the phone. So even though I circled that as a personal goal, I know it's going to bless and honor my family. And it's something that they can emulate as well. So those are just a couple of little reasons why I gave myself a 7 in the family area. Okay. That's an example. Let's dig in. And we're gonna spend we're gonna spend 12, I think 12 minutes on this because it's an important one, guys. Okay. So let's do 12. Does that sound like a good time? Let's do 10 minutes. And if we need a little bit more, we'll do that. Okay. So 10 minutes. I'm going to play some Christmas music. You can tune it out if you need silence. And let's do this thing. Okay. So loving this conversation in the chat. Your fun recreation is a 1 for sure. I love it. Well, you know what's so funny too is like well, you guys, you can share whatever if you're an open book like me and you can totally share. I'm an optimist, like to a fault. Those of you that know me that well. And so like, I think I refuse to see anything other like than the glass half full. So I have a hard time like, rating things low. But one of the things I did notice, and we're going to go backwards too, for those of you guys who've done this before, but this is specific to Bianca's great question, talking about like rest and recreation. So last year's, 2021, I rated, this is probably the lowest I've ever rated a category. My recreation was a 4. And I would write, I need to find something for me. Cause I was like, I don't even know what that is. And I put dance question mark, nails/massage, like fun trips. I'm like, I literally don't even know what that is. And then I told you guys about my trusty notebook. I sometimes when I start them, I leave the page blank for something that kind of strikes my inspiration. And there was this, I did a podcast episode on this, but it was inspired and an interview. Yeah, I guess I did the interview was the podcast episode. Anyway, with this gal named Dara Laporta, I'm a part of a community called She Works His Way that is God focused entrepreneurs of like all different types. Like, some people are in ministry, some are nurses, teachers, like all the things, but they kind of view their ministry or their job as a ministry. And they do these like weekly trainings and they have a podcast too that's really great. But Dara Laporta, she's a top leader at Beachbody. She did this kind of thing that says, "Do you trust me enough to walk instead of run?" And it was based for those of you who are believers, it was based in Galatians 5:25 and Ephesians 5:15 and John 15. And it was talking about the importance of having stillness and making more time for rest and play. So I literally wrote a box like make more time for rest and play. And I was like, what? Like I literally put golf on Friday morning question mark. And here's the cool thing, because I also had friends as my priority for 2020 and 2021. Yeah, 2021, I had both of those as my priorities or my top 3. And what's really cool is through this, and I really feel like it was a gift from the Lord, but it started with me intentionally being aware of it. I now play golf at least once a week with a group of like 3 or 4, I would say 3 or 4 friends that I didn't even know them like a week or a year ago, a year and a half ago. And so it's really cool when you start to focus your energy on those different areas, how it starts to bleed into different areas of your life. But it's all about just like cultivating the areas where you need to grow. So, okay. So now from this, you guys, looking at your scores, and you don't have to make your priority the 3 lowest scores if you don't want to. You might be like, for example, in momentum in your business and you want to continue that momentum. That's awesome. Like you can totally make your work one of your priorities. Also, if you feel like maybe an area is not so great, but it doesn't need to be the priority right now, that's okay too. But it can be really challenging in life and business to try to be the best at all the things. And that's one of the areas where I think social media kind of fails us is it looks like on the outside that people have it all together. And that's why I love this quote from Laura Casey, which is comparison isn't just the thief of joy, it's the thief of everything. And especially with social media, I feel like it, and there's more to that quote that I was gonna personally say. Anyways, I think that social media makes it look like everybody's got all of the things all together in all of these areas. And I can promise you, like, did any of you guys have 10s in all of these areas? Anyone? Anyone? 9s? 8s? I don't think so. Nope. And if you are, you're probably not. You're probably in denial. So we all have areas where we need to grow and we need to focus on oh yeah, I didn't have a single 10. I don't think I've ever rated a 10 because I feel like there's always room for growth, right? And it's rare for me to put a 9 for something. So, okay, let's see. Recreation is definitely my lowest. I feel guilty for having fun. Mona, same, same. But I'm telling you, I have shifted. I've made that my focus over this last year. And like I said, like, kind of that blessed my life. And actually, the rest of that particular thing is I felt called in that moment. And I think I've shared this with you, Mona, to dial back my pace a little bit. And so in 2021, for like the first time probably ever, work was not one of my top 3 priorities. It just wasn't. I chose to focus. What were the 3 last year? Health and wellness, which I went from a 4 to an 8, which is very exciting. Family looks like 6 to 7. So I still have some work to do in that area and then I don't know why that's hard for me. It's terrible to say that, but it is hard. And then work and yeah. And then wait, what was the last one? Oh, recreation. Yeah. And so now I feel like I put in mind, for example, the fun and recreation. I think I took it a little too far. Like this past year, like I went, and so this is hope for you guys who struggle in this area. It went from like, I have a friend that just moved to town and she's like, when can we get together to celebrate your birthday? And I was like, oh, let's see. I've got laser hair removal, my weightlifting appointment. I've got golf a few days that week. How about Thursday at like 10 a.m.? Would that work? And it's like, I think I went like too far on the spectrum where I kind of filled I was doing yoga, have my Bible study. So it's like literally my plate was filled with good things, but I think it can kind of, come a little too far on the spectrum. So this year, just to kind of again be transparent with you guys, my 3 areas of focus, and I would love for you to share your 3 in the comments as well. Mine are work and learning. It's back because I have never felt more inspired for my business with the company that I'm in with Saint. I have added the new business, so it's not necessarily at this point like a moneymaker, but I am very open-minded and scripture has opened my mind to, allowing an additional revenue stream that could come from my podcast and, the course that we're putting on and things like that. That was actually, if you're in Replicate Your Results, we're going to talk about money mindset in the next module on Monday. So we'll talk more about that then. But for me, work and learning is something that I'm actually really inspired and excited about. But I think because I've exercised setting the boundaries in my business, I know that I can kind of step into them in a little bit more of a healthy role. Plus, again, if you've listened to that, I think it was a podcast right after the Dara Laporta interview, I talked about I used to think that our pace was just confined to walker, jogger, and runner. Then I realized there's a fourth option based in Isaiah 40:31, which is to soar. And so that's like being the eagle for those of you guys who are part of it. So work and learning is back on my list. Finances are back on my list. And not because like back when I started doing this, there is no telling what it said, but I know I had some debt and it was not in a good place. And I'm curious to know what I rated it back then. A 6. I tried to push the dirt under the rug, but the truth is that my debt is nasty, all caps. And eradicating it needs to be a top focus. Grateful for the opportunity for increased income. You guys, talk about living in the gain. Whoa, like that's big. That's really, really, really big. So anyway, now it's back on my priority, but it's actually to focus more on intentional giving. Last year, I set a goal to, on top of my husband and I tithe, but on top of that, I was giving 10% of my personal income, and I wanted to up it to 20. And I don't know that I need to go back and budget and do all the things, which is fun for me, but I want to up that 10% each year to give more and more of the excess income after taxes, after tithing, after our family budgets and all of that stuff. Like the excess that's left over, I want to give as much as I can away, and then I also want to make sure that the time and investment, that I'm putting into the things that I'm doing is generating the investment back on the back end. And then last, I want to align my goals with Roger. So that's where finances, again, family is one for me, and then the work and learning. So let me read a couple of y'all. So Erin says her top priorities are family, spiritual growth, and health. Love it. Sarah with an H says health, family, friends, but I have about 4 of these out of 4. So I have a lot of improvement in a lot of areas. Try not to get overwhelmed. Okay. It can be like, this is where it gets really hard. Like, and again, you might even get a little bit emotional on some of these, and just know that like, it's okay to cry. I know Sarah, her sweet friend Paige gave her a necklace that says that it's okay to cry. And sometimes how I said, sweeping the dirt under the rug, back when I had my business, like nobody would have ever known that about me. Right. And I wasn't about to like post about it on social media or anything like that. So people don't know the hard things, and you taking the time to put it on paper is what's going to help to unearth those, those kind of hidden things. Okay. Okay. So Sarah Davies says hers are family, home and spaces, spiritual and personal growth. Sarah, do you want to, don't feel like you have to, or if you can't, but do you want to elaborate or anything? Do you want to come on stage?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, I just got done with my workout. I've showered and I'm put a cozy sweatshirt on. Anyway, yeah, for me, well, family, it's always a top priority. And I have small kids right now. I've got 5 kids, 8 and under, and the youngest is 1. So it's just always a top priority. And then home and spaces, I'd be embarrassed for you guys to come to my house right now. Let's just say that. So I feel like that was my lowest. I rated that as a 2, and I just said, "Our home needs a lot of help. We need more space and could declutter and get rid of stuff, and I don't like the feeling in my home because it feels unfinished and cluttery." So, there's just a lot of work to do there. And then the spiritual and personal growth, I feel like looking back, I've grown a ton, personally, especially in the business over the last 5 years, but I feel like spiritually, I mean, I go to church every week and, I pray and stuff like that, but I really feel like it's time to like create some consistent like spiritual habits in my life of like digging deep into the scriptures and attending the temple more often, which in my religion is separate from Sunday attendance. And then also just having more meaningful prayer. Like I kind of check the box when it comes to prayer sometimes. So just focusing more there. So yeah, just it's really more, I feel like this coming year is more about those types of things for me. So, which will help, I believe, the other areas by default.
Amen. Yeah. I love that. Thank you for being vulnerable to share.
Yeah, you bet.
And decluttering, I think, touched the hearts of a couple people, myself included, and that's something I've come a long way. And it's kind of like having weeds in a garden. Like I think it's really hard to appreciate the beauty of the things that are growing well when all you see are like the things that don't matter. And we can just put it off. And a lot of it's just habits. Like all of these things, it's like cultivating these habits that can kind of feel unnatural at first. But I feel like the more time you put into them, like the easier those things become. And we can change. Like that's sometimes why, like, certain when you put yourself in a box on something like the Enneagram or, some of those tests, you just say, like, "I'm disorganized," or "I'm not a numbers person," or "I this and that and the other." They're kind of excuses that hold you back from leaning into, to the growth that can impact, like you said, Sarah, not just that area, but so many different areas of your business. So, I love that. Does anybody else wanna hop on and share? Don't feel like you have to, but it looks like it's pretty
Oh,
easy.
I hit stop sharing, Heather. I'm trying to get off of here.
Oh, yeah, no,
I think
that's
it's
okay.
because I'm a
Cool.
presenter. So I'm gonna try to jump off this thing. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Does anybody wanna hop on and share? Since this is a big one, and I feel like it's always inspiring to hear how other people are doing it. If not, that's okay too.